Hello, P.
Hello, Tim.
Hello,
Ta-da!
Natalie.
Hello, Tim.
Hello. So, thank you very much for letting me interview Di Badger.
You're
I'm
welcome.
very glad that you're here. Hello, Georgia.
Hi.
Hello, Paul.
Hi, Tim.
Hello, Jen.
Hi, Tim.
Hello again, Sophie.
Hello, Tim.
See- Hello, Natasha.
Hi, Tim.
Hello, Akasha Mitra.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Claire.
Hello, completely natural.
Hello.
Hello and welcome to GTEx interview.
Hello, Louisa.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Paula.
Hello, Tim.
Oh, that has to be Friends. That's true. It is Friends, and it's a difficult one because what matters to me in terms of what I like and what I want, and what matters to me in terms of what I fear and how much that affects my life. Avoiding difficult scenarios, that matters. And I could probably list quite a few of those. I'm quite a fearful individual, I think. But also I like to challenge those fears where I can. I think that my most important recognition, perception and understanding about life is acceptance. All the stages you go through life, you lose something from the previous stage, and therefore ultimately life is about acceptance.
Growth, growing as a human being, becoming more aware, more considered, kind. By growing and developing certain qualities within myself, then that allows me to get into better relationship with my family, my friends, you know, my partner. It allows me to contribute to the people I love in my life. Also learning, getting a better understanding of the world so that I can come into better relationship with the world I live in. In order to do that, I need to challenge my perceptions that I've inherited through my family, which don't always serve me. You know, and I think friends are important because they sometimes point stuff out to you.
Well, first thing that comes to mind is people. People matter most. That's really good. It's got to be the bottom line, as it were. You know, the welfare of people. You know, whether it's people I know, my own friends, people I don't know, people throughout the world, and I suppose all of life. Friendships made such a difference to my life, and I can't imagine a life without friendship. Such a major thing in life. Other people are your life, aren't they?
Like the first word that came to my mind was fun. If I'm having fun, then all the other things are slotting into place. It means I'm probably spending time with my friends, my family. I'm being kind and good to myself, and I'm living life to the max.
Maybe a theme which we have explored before around companionship, probably. Love. Connection, I guess. But in the right amount. Because I also value independence and space and freedom. Navigating the balance between those two things is probably what's most important to me. That's the challenge of living, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think connection, being connected to something greater than myself, feeling that sense of connection, but also connected to other people, which is partially how I experience that connection to something greater, is through other people. A sense of being able to express myself, to express the energy that I came here with, because I don't think that I've come into this form for no reason. So that feels like a really important thing, and a constant struggle to know how to do that. And I guess it links to the other thing, purpose, like knowing what my contribution is, and how to make it. That can be on a wider scale,
Mm-hmm.
so work, but it can also just be moment to moment. Something about appreciating nature, being able to be in sync with it. But that's only recently become important. Up until recently, I've been a cyborg. So, yeah.
I do know what matters to me, but I don't know if I can articulate it.
Hmm.
I'm following something, but I don't quite know exactly what it is that I'm following. I just have an experience of it. It's almost like I just need to be true to that thing. I guess in mundane terms, it just means that I know that when I'm living my life in the way that I want, I feel free, I feel creative, I feel generous, I feel happy, and I know the things that I need to do in my life to put that into place. The way that works is if I'm regularly engaging in a creative practice, if I'm meditating, if I'm teaching, if I'm doing my work in the right way, if I'm in harmony with the people that I know and love, and I'm taking time to reflect and I'm creating enough space in my life, then that creates the conditions to foster the growth of this thing that I'm trying to make grow in my life.
For me, it's understanding how the mind works, really. Because from this is the beginning of everything. Without the mind, you wouldn't be able to perceive anything. You wouldn't be able to create any sense, any meaning in your life. So I guess being aware of this helps me relax a little bit and not take the external reality so seriously. So that's what matters most to me. Then it's what I do with life. So it's like friends, family, my girlfriend. I guess the cornerstones of my existence.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Straight in with the easy questions.
Yeah.
Lots of things actually. Family, friends. Work is really important to me. Doing a job that keeps me sort of stimulated intellectually. I couldn't spend my working life doing a job that didn't excite me or kind of make me feel that I was learning new stuff every day and progressing and developing myself. Food. Eating it, cooking it, reading about it, just looking at it. I guess going deeper than that, I guess learning, absorbing new things about the world and having new experiences, going to new places, learning about new cultures.
I can hear my child crying.
It could be
Yeah, I think that might be a cue. Well, I suppose it's probably then, actually people, isn't it? I suppose it is your children probably, isn't it? Yeah, because you sacrifice a lot of other things in order to put them first. So I suppose that's, in the sense of other things that maybe are important, kind of get slightly shelved. I have 2 children. One of them is still quite small, so I'm definitely in the shelving everything else time. Doing no harm, that's quite important, isn't it, probably? Trying to make the most of what's sort of there and available to you. Trying to be content. Creativity. I suppose having children's it's a kind of creation, isn't it?
My family, very close friends. But then something I've realised only in the last year, which is more of like a quality that I'm really appreciating, sort of sense of connectedness between people doing something, feeling connected with them, or connected with, like, I guess the earth or the ground or myself. So it's something, if I was to go beyond saying like my family and the people, like the things that make my life meaningful day to day, I think at the heart of that is a feeling of being connected to something.
People and connection. If I'm 90 on my deathbed looking back, the only things that I suspect will really matter would be people and connection. And for me, even more than experience.
Firstly, my work matters to me a lot. I'm making sure I enjoy it, and I place a lot of importance on being good at my work. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of being good at my work. Secondly, the thing that matters to me are my friends and having really good people around me. And thirdly, my obsession with music probably means that matters to me a lot as well.
think I'm going to have to say blue.
Mm-hmm.
Blue of Akshobhya. It's the Buddha of which I meditate on.
I don't have a favorite color, but
Yes.
like a set of colors is pastel colors.
Yeah.
It's always been green. Well, since a certain time it's been green. I think I can really remember my nan, who's a really important person in my life. She, when I was quite young, used to say that green was her favourite colour because it was the colour of the earth.
White. I've got a deep fascination with the colour white.
Mm.
It's a visceral thing since I started practicing more seriously. And also since I started making music for some reason as well. My music feels intimately tied in with the colour white. And dreams that I had around snowy mountain landscapes at that time as well. So my sadhana practice and my yidam is Varochana, and white is the colour associated with Varochana.
Right. Oh, blue. Light blue. I like looking at the sky when it's that sort of blue colour. And the sea.
Do you know what? I don't really have one because it kind of varies. I quite like a pink, but not girly, not Barbie pink.
No.
Kind of deep pink.
Green. That's an easy one. Yeah, I like green because it reminds me of emeralds and leaves, and I look good in green.
Blue because of its many nuances.
Mm.
So there are greeny, some kind of greeny, oceanic blue, paled down a bit, maybe somewhere along those lines.
I don't think I have a favourite colour.
Okay.
Actually, I quite like this regal blue. I like shades of red moving into orange.
My favourite colour does change over periods of years, but at the moment it happens to be a moss fern green. Slightly darker than a lime green. But that's been going about 6 months. That's quite new, and that will last a few years.
Pink is sounds like really girly, but pink's a good colour on my skin tone. I like pinks, whites, and blues.
Purple. It always has been. Ever since I was a kid. People tell me it's a colour associated with royalty, religion, death sometimes, spirituality.
Blue and brown. I guess it's a colour. It's a colour of nature as well. It's a colour of trees and wood, and so brown is quite earthy, and blue is the colour of the ocean. So now that I mention it, I kind of like the colour red as well. Then there's a kind of a vibrancy, like anger or sex. I think there's something about diversity, isn't there? You appreciate all colours, maybe you appreciate all different types of people.
Being present in the moment and responding to things as they happen makes me feel very, very alive. Contact improvisation, dancing, which, and things like that, I feel like are really pure manifestations of just being present in the moment and then responding to present in the moment. So in that form of dance, you're doing partner work with somebody and responding to their weight and their movements. Kind of the more in tune you are with them, the better it works. So it's less about trying to dance really beautifully. I feel really alive when I'm doing things like that.
A really interesting interaction or conversation where I'm understanding, being understood, being challenged, telling stories, particularly not so much in a performance context, but just retelling things that have happened in a day, or at least the way that I saw it. The moments where I realised that it sounds a bit cheesy, but that I am not breathing, that actually there's a lot of stuff happening in my body without any effort made by me. It's probably being around children.
Laughing, but like proper laughing. Windy days, wind in your face, wind in your hair, that's kind of...
Right.
And therefore maybe the sea. But other people, isn't it? I guess. Actually, although, I mean, I like being on my own a lot. Hardly ever on my own anymore, which I regret very much. But I suppose you feel most alive when you're with other people. Oh gosh, this is something I think about all the time. I feel most alive when I am connected with people in a very relaxed environment and where there is sarcasm and trust, because sarcasm can be offensive, and where the unspeakable is being spoken. You can go through from hysterical laughter to very serious very quickly, and the two aren't exclusive of each other, that there is incredible humour in difficult, painful, serious topics. And being around people where you can flick between those two things and where it's very real.
Well, maybe a couple of things bring to mind. Music and singing. So singing definitely makes me come alive. And teaching. Teaching can bring me alive as well. Teaching the Dharma, teaching Buddhism. I can feel really connected. I think it's connection to something that matters for me.
One of the things that really makes me come alive is nature. Just getting right out in the thick of nature. In a similar sense, mountains, really getting properly to the top of nature. Food. Man, food makes me feel alive. Dancing's another thing that really makes me feel alive. Brings me into a more fun sense of myself. I'm just not a level playing kind of person. I want to be doing things that are giving me the extremes. Anything that's slightly mad would work.
Yeah.
Playfulness, sometimes silliness, and creativity, and just physical movement, I think.
There are lots of things which can make me come alive. One of them is computers, configuring programs and using software and e-learning. So this is what I do for a living. And another thing is friendships and interaction with people. And you know, the closer people are to me, the more alive I feel. I guess the connection is what does it for me.
Yeah.
I think I feel alive when I'm doing body work, so when I'm doing yoga. And I think when I work with my body and my breath, and it's almost like it allows me to create space around my thoughts. It could also be cooking a good meal. When I'm immersed in writing an essay, if I get immersed and I have the right literature and I get into a certain flow and ideas are kind of connecting, good communication with friends, having sex, dancing. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that bring me alive actually.
Lots of things make me come alive. I'm quite competitive, so in a work situation, sort of working on a pitch is when I get really excited. Yes, it's about winning, but it's also about that satisfaction of doing a brilliant job. One of my values that's really strong is fairness. So yes, I'm competitive, but not at all costs. I want to do it in a way that's kind of true to my values. Having a laugh. You know Dougie, obviously, who's my husband. Could never have stayed with him for as long as we've been together if we didn't have a relationship where we laugh together all the time. So yeah, being competitive and laughing.
Yeah. I feel alive when I'm in my flow at work. I feel alive when I'm with really good friends, and then music makes me feel alive as well. Being in a beautiful place like Skiros, I feel very alive there. You know, I really appreciate what's around me, and just having time to sort of really look at things and just to be.
It's changed really as I've got older. I think what I find very nourishing these days is something that's probably quite philosophical. You know, it is about what life is about, the sort of conversations we're having right now. And I notice that I'm increasingly attracted to people who want to have those sort of conversations. It's the quest, it's the search, it's the kind of exploration of the kind of the deeper meaning of life. And I guess linked to that, the other things that bring me alive is travel. And putting those two things together. What's it like for you to live here? The first thing that popped into my head was Kes, 1969 Ken Loach film. Beautiful. So simple, so raw. So on one level, something like that, because that's simple and heartwarming. But then on another level, something like Lawrence of Arabia, because it's such a spectacle. I guess they're both quite human stories.
Two really come to mind. There's one that's a sort of an enduring favourite film, which is a documentary called Scratch, a music documentary about turntablism. So as you know, I was a DJ from a very young age and always been obsessed with record collecting and music culture. And then also there's a film called, I can't remember how to say it in Italian, but The Great Beauty. Every frame is just exquisite, very moving, but incredibly entertaining at the same time.
Well, when everybody asks me that, I think it was always been a prepared answer, because when I was younger, I thought everybody asks that question and how to engage with people socially. I need to have some favourite films. But I did watch a film that was really, really profound, Leon. I identified with the young actress in that, not just because she shares the same name as I do, but because she was going through a difficult time, alienated by the family she found herself born into, and then lived this reality, which obviously was a complete fantasy. I could see myself playing those scenarios out in my head, you know. I really connected with that film, and also Sting's song The Shape of My Heart remains one of my favourite songs.
Probably Star Wars, like the original 4, 5, 6. Mainly when I was younger, my brother had them on constantly, and when I was little, I mean, I was a little bit thick and I didn't understand them, but I sort of just loved the kind of action of them all and all the characters in them, and then it was amazing when I was older to watch them again and actually understand what was going on. But yeah, I just think they're incredible and timeless.
Yeah, see what's popping into my mind, The Sound of Music, because that was my favourite film when I was a child. I think the film I've returned to, which I haven't done for years, actually, is probably When Harry Met Sally. When I was a teenager, it was The Breakfast Club, so there's a theme, isn't there? Sound of Music, Breakfast Club, and When Harry Met Sally, it's love, isn't it?
One is Bad Boy Bobby, which is by Rolf de Heer, an Australian director. And it's just weird. I've only known one person to sit with me and actually watch it. Other people are like, I need to go. Because it's just odd. Grosse Point Blank, it has John Cusack in it.
Okay.
And Minnie Driver. And it's actually quite awful, but there's something I like about it. And Aeroplane is one of my all-time favourite films.
This has been my favourite film for a long time. We've probably watched it together, actually, because it's with Nan and I.
Hey!
I absolutely love it. I must have seen it, gosh, God knows how many times. The cinematography is just amazing.
Really? Right, yeah.
Those scenes up in the Lake District are beautiful.
Yeah.
It's funny, it's tragic, it's got this kind of really fascinating relationship between the two main characters that's kind of obviously based on sort of deep affection, but also really sort of spiky at times, and there's lots of really funny drinking in it as well, which is just brilliantly quotable.
The first film that came to mind, a film called Cat Ballou, and it stars Jane Fonda and Lee Marvin and Nat King Cole's in it. And it's brilliant because it's it's kind of a comedy western. It's got everything. I think the film has. It's pure entertainment.
It's called Mongol. It's a film about Genghis Khan. It's a story about how he grew up and he became the warrior that he did. I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about the film. There's a line at the beginning, never scorn a weak cub, he may become a brutal tiger. Yeah, it just really gets to my core just thinking about that phrase. You might start on the weaker side of things in certain elements of your life, but it can give you strength. I'm always looking out for the underdog, because there must be an element in myself that I feel like an underdog in some ways, and so I nurture that aspect of myself but look out for other people in that as well.
For many years it's been Pan's Labyrinth. That was when I was at school, because I loved the magical aspect to it, and I always loved like when I was a teenager I loved magical realism books. I love that idea of like narrating a true story or something that could be factual, and then just having these very subtle twists, giving somebody a magical characteristic to their personality.
There is one coming to in my mind, but I'm not, and I think it's not necessarily because it was my favourite, but I think I had a very strong emotional reaction to it, which is why it's sticking in my head. And it's called Something to Brighten, and it was an arts film, and it was around child prostitution, and there was something really raw and shocking. It had quite a violent end, and the way that it was filmed was not polished. I can remember feeling really quite stunned. I'm not quite sure if it was my favourite film, but it's the one that definitely stands out.
The Legend of 1900, music by Ennio Morricone, about a pianist who was born on a ship and went down with the ship at the end of the film. This guy is really humble, which I guess it's a lesson for me to learn as well.
I don't know what I believe in necessarily. I just have a sense that everything that is there isn't necessarily known. There's a lot that we don't know about what's in the energy waves in the air. I don't know. It's too much we don't know.
Yeah, yes. I don't really know about the higher being thing, but I do definitely think there's more to the fact than just human beings are here and we're the best. Yeah, I think it comes back to that sense of like connectedness. I don't think there's someone that's controlling. I'm not religious in that sense. Yeah, no, yes, spiritual.
Yeah.
I think the answer is yes. And I suppose I would admit to being slightly paradoxical about this, in the sense that I find it awfully comforting to think there is. And yet, what I don't want is to assume that because I think there is, that somehow shapes who I am, what I do, and the choices I make. I guess I'm much more open now than I ever was to the idea of maybe there are other forces at work in the universe that I'm not aware of. I definitely have a view that there is a spiritual dimension to the universe that's almost mystical, and that is worth paying attention to.
My instinctive reaction is no, but I'm already thinking, like, what does a higher power mean? Can I be my own higher power and oscillate between the different power states within myself? But in terms of something that is beyond me, no. And I don't think I want there to be. Because what helps me live my life well is knowing that there's a lack of meaning in life, which connects with the higher power. I don't want there to be an afterlife. I don't want there to be something that happens when I die, because there's something so stark and clear about death being final that pushes one into living really well in the present moment. Well, at least it can help.
I don't know if it's a higher power. I believe that there is some sort of principle at work in our universe that transcends me. It's not that it's outside of us, and it's not that it's in us either. It's just that we are of it and it is of us, but it also is everything.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of faith, that's a persistent, difficult question for me. I envy people that have faith. I love and believe in science. I love knowledge. I love learning things. But because it's so vast and what we know is so little, we can get lost in it. So I really struggle with my own desire for truth and my ability to find out what that truth is. So I envy faith because, at least I could be, settled in that. Either distracted by the delusion that science gives you, or accept that there's someone that I've put a shape to that I will go and meet eventually. But I think what frames all of it for me, apart from the fear of not knowing, is the fear of death.
That's a very difficult question,
isn't
because I would describe myself as an atheist, but I definitely think there is something, not higher power, but I think there are ways of tapping into something that's outside of that rational day-to-day, just being caught up in everything that's going on. It's about being kind to yourself, isn't it? It's whether it's through meditation or prayer, I guess. It's all these things, I think, tap into a similar thing, and whether you choose to believe that there's a higher power at the other end of what you're doing.
I hope so. But not God. In Buddhism, you've got higher forces of wisdom and compassion, energy, that are there in the universe for us to tap into, to open up to, and that all of us can open up to them and allow them to transform us. But it's not something you can fix. It's not. It's more a current. It's more a force or energy rather than, fixed into this idea of God.
Yeah, I certainly believe in a creator. I think there's this being, whatever it is, that's incredibly intelligent and also incredibly fucking playful. So I think that force is out there, it does exist. In order for this thing to know itself, it needs to make itself manifest. And it does that through the material world. And we are part of that process of its knowing.
Yes.
Because I feel like I have no definite knowledge that a higher power exists, I find that difficult to answer. But part of me really, really does, and I do feel like everything does happen for a reason, and so not a sort of a being, but just that things happen because they're meant to happen. If I look back at things that I've done that I maybe someone else might regret, or maybe I should regret. I don't have that at all. Or good things that have happened, and I think, God, that was incredible that happened, and it was all for a reason. And I can see how things sort of one thing leads on to the next.
Right. Just recently, I realized that we all are a higher power. So without the higher power, we wouldn't be able to do anything. We wouldn't be able to exist. There is this higher power, which we are.
Yes.
And then our personal experience is creating within it.
Yes.
But without this container,
yes,
it's not possible to have any experience.
Right.
Oh, the answer is I wish I did. I suppose because it would be nice to think that everything isn't chaos, wouldn't it? And that things have meaning. I think things have. I think they have personal meaning.
Yes.
It's not to say, I'm not sort of taking a nihilistic view.
Sure.
It's not that.
Sure.
But it would be nice to think that injustice is put rights somewhere along the line.
I do feel like I connect with something. It's like when I do the Metta Bhavana, but it's almost like there's something I can access which makes me feel loved. And therefore more able to be more loving to others. And I'm not sure what that something is. I find it hard to answer this question because I feel very dependent upon what other people think of me in this moment. It's almost like actually it's not for me to say what makes me me. It's for others. I'd like to say I'm the embodiment of love and light and clarity. I'm also the embodiment of hate and anger and lust. And I like to think what bridges all of that or glues it is what makes me maybe me within the tensions and the conflicts is humour, playfulness.
Oh my God, who am I? Half the time we don't even know, do we? I think what makes me me, I'm like a really sensitive creature, overly so sometimes, and people love it as well. My humour, laughing, pretty detail oriented person, creative, kind, loyal. I've seen some ugly sides of myself recently I haven't enjoyed as well. I can be quite sensitive, and so I'm really paying attention to what people say, to the point of trying to attach meaning to what they say when it might not even be there.
My ancestry, also the particular energy that I came here with, which I'm still working out what that is. I know something of it, which is that it's watery. And then there's the personality, which for me is also the stories. It's what I make of different events in my life, and all of those things I will use to kind of make up who I am. But essentially I believe that I'm the expression of a greater being.
I'm very, very focused and very motivated. If I'm given a task, there is a part of me that will just do it, but there's a bigger part of me that will also be looking out of the window and getting caught up in other thoughts and ideas and changing my ideas about it as I'm doing it. So I think the general characteristic is like energy to do stuff, but it won't be in a necessarily ordered, methodical way.
being quite decisive.
Right, yeah.
Which I think makes me appear quite strong-minded.
Yes.
I feel like I've got a really sort of good instinct, and I never deliberate about whether to do things. I just know if I want to do something or I don't. I am silly. Don't take a lot of things seriously. Only like really, really the real hardcore stuff I take seriously. Everything else is just a complete joke to me. I think that I think about other people a lot and sort of want to make sure that they're okay and check in on them. I generally just want to have a laugh all the time. I think I work hard. I don't really like owning things. I take too much responsibility for people's mood, I think.
Over time, I think I've developed an ability to get on with people because I'm genuinely interested in what that depth is, and also very aware that I cannot get as deep inside that person as that person can get inside of themselves. And I think people respond to that really well, and because they've responded to that, I've carried on doing it. And I also believe it's a quality. I feel good about myself about that. I actually don't think I'm an arrogant person. I'm not very sure of myself a lot of the time, but there is an integrity, there is something that keeps me going, which says, well, there are certain things that I believe in and that I will only deviate from with sort of great pressure. All I'm trying to say there is that I recognise that I, like everybody else, just isn't perfect. I really try and understand that lack of perfection, and I think that in itself is a quality.
I seem to fall somewhere between the lover and the fool. So the person who is very engaging and listening and soft, but also I like to laugh and I like a bit of fun. And I think often when I'm in situations that I find a bit difficult, I'll often use humour as a way to deal with it. So I think what makes me me is in a way rather like the balance between the solitude and connection.
I have been conditioned by everything in my life, from where I grew up, my parents, my family, my education, all the people I've known. I guess people are probably again the biggest influence in my life. Their views and their care, etc., have had an effect on making me who I am.
Who am I? I still don't know. The degree of introversion. I'm not solitary in the sense that I'm, I have friends and family and all of that, but maybe I like being on my own sometimes. I kind of quite like the absurd. I'm in some ways quite self-contained unless you know me very well. The things that are true about me, like the fact that I have a temper, I'm quite, in my way, quite fiery. It probably is quite hidden away, particularly in the work. I'd like to think I've got some kind of set of some set of values. There are certain things that I see in my friends that I hope I kind of have.
Gosh, do you know what? That's really hard. I'm going to throw that question back at you, actually.
There's a sort of brightness and aliveness to you. You want to enjoy yourself. You want to have fun. You want to laugh. But also you want to take seriously the things that you do feel serious about. Stylish and thoughtful and kind.
I would agree with all of those.
So I think what makes me different, than perhaps other people, I think I have the ability to pick up something in the air between people. And it can be a curse as well as a pleasure. So in terms of the pleasure, I think it means that it makes it easier for me to connect with people sometimes. But within it also comes anxiety, because I can sometimes pick up where I think that there is a difficulty. And I know that in my relationship with Suze is that she'll often say, oh, I hadn't even realised that yet. And I think it's very similar to the skill of being a medium.
Everything I've ever experienced, and probably a bit more that was here at the start maybe. The strongest parts of me are things that aren't necessarily the effect of things that I've come into contact with in this life. So I feel like I've practiced a spiritual life before. I feel like my interest in certain aspects of culture, like this thing that I was talking about of sort of white and minimalism, they kind of point to things that I feel that I'm discovering in myself that were there already.
I go through like fixations of listening to one piece of music. So at the moment I'm completely obsessed with a Keith Jarrett live concert called the Colne Concert. And it's a live improvisation. I think it's sort of about 45 minutes. And it's just one of the most incredible things that I have ever listened to. But there are just so many pieces of music that I could say are my favourites. So let me try and work in chronological order. Mahler Symphony No. 2, Brahms Violin Sonatas, Beethoven Symphonies 7 and 8, Ravel Piano Concerto in G, and the second movement of that is the most exquisite piece of music I've ever heard. So there are a few, but I could probably go on for quite a long time.
A piece called Harmonium by John Adams, which is a classical, it's an orchestral and vocal piece, which is probably my all-time favourite piece of music.
It's a Different Class by Pulp, which is the best album ever. You listen to it now and it still doesn't feel dated. But it's got a very strong theme running all the way through it about the sort of class struggle, and actually really relevant today.
I'm so fickle. It just changes. There's a few tunes that I'll like every single time, but generally I'm always looking for new music. There's one tune that just goes right through me every time, and that's Ave Maria.
One song really stands out, but it's not about the song. It was because of the situation to which that song was presented me, and it was about 2 weeks after I met Suze. Something had happened during that day, and I was feeling a bit down. And she emailed me over Carole King's track, "You Make the Earth Move." It was so right for that moment. One, it was upbeat. Two, it was a sort of Suze was telling me that I move her earth. And there was something about the way that had the ability to completely change my mood, not just temporarily, but for a longer period of time. That definitely is the song.
Well, pretty much anything by Mozart, but particularly maybe Don Giovanni. I think it's got light and dark in it. Beethoven, maybe Symphony 6 or 9, and then Wagner, and seeing Parsifal for the first time. Some of the most beautiful, sublime music.
I grew up listening to arabesque. It's basically when people would move from the village to the city, somehow you never fully fit in. With that comes a certain pain. So that kind of music of pain, and sometimes actually, let's bloody feel the misery of life.
This whole thing about film and music, I think these are cultural trinkets that are associated with youth and help you identify yourself. And I had such an absence of that. There still is an element of, well, I don't know and I should know, but I know when music comes on what I really love. I really love music. I don't know if other people do this, but I can produce entire scores of music in my head. I wish I could play music so I could just get this out of my head. So maybe after this I'll go and learn an instrument.
I suppose it's obvious, but something like John Lennon Imagine comes to mind. Purity of intention, I think. I guess that would speak to the part of me that's the lover.
You know, I kind of have this list of favourite things that you made maybe 15, 20 years ago. Close to Me, The Cure. Apparently there's something about music you like when you're an adolescent. Apparently it's kind of somehow gets, I don't know, your kind of physiological response to it is different.
There is one which immediately comes to mind.
Okay,
definitely.
let's go with that.
It's the Chaconne for violin solo by Bach. It is phenomenal. It's so deep. Lots of people would probably say that it's very sad or depressing, but for me it's the depth of this music is incredible.
Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, Amazing human beings, and I was very, very into both boxing and martial arts when I was a kid. John Cage, some of the sort of late 70s, early 80s DJs as well. I've got quite a lot of people that I look up to, actually. I think that's a sign of a healthy human being.
I've got loads, actually. Recent one. Do you know Lizzie Arnold? I just find her so inspirational. This absolute commitment to what she does. And you know, when I look at what she does, I think actually that looks quite boring. She kind of slides down an icy slope on a tea tray, right? But the amount of passion and preparation and perfection that she puts into that is just so inspiring.
I find it quite a hard question to answer. It's not because I don't have heroes, but when you appreciate the heroic, they're often much more ordinary, everyday things you notice, of stories you hear, of people who are nameless in many ways, or you forget their name. In some ways, people who have excelled at something I could have not excelled at and probably would never be able to excel at in a million years, but who also stir something in you that's quite significant, I guess.
Yeah, sentimentally, like my nan. She stands out for me because I knew her best in her last 5 years of life when she was 88 to 93. And what always stayed with me, she was an extremely active learner and thinker, and her take on the world was just on point in those last 5 years, and I think her state of mind is something that I want to keep with me. She just has such a good sense of humour.
My dad is my hero. He fought against communists when I was small. He was arrested many times, and so he kind of contributed as well to the communists falling down. But not only that, I think he's my hero because of how he is as a father. I see how much he's given for me, for my sister, despite his limitations, how much he needed to grow himself and how much he did.
I think one of them is Audre Lorde. She is an African-American poet. She died in the 90s. I read one of her books, something like an autobiography. But this book just blew me away. It was basically being a young, queer, black, Caribbean person in New York, and also a poet, and trying to bring all these things together. And she became quite an activist. She had this thing about silence and that you should speak because your silence will not protect you. I think that's something that I've always wrestled with. She was like my first point of reference in terms of my own social coordinates. The people that really inspire me are people that go through a lot of shit and are actually decent people. Everyday people, actually. I think those are my heroes and heroines. Because it's particularly harder to do a good thing when no one's watching or clapping.
Yes.
The first person that came into my mind was this lady called Dr. Joy Brown, a radio talk show host in America. People phone in with their problems, and she's got the most amazing solutions and spins. I love like strong, independent women that've got the real courage to be really different. I've always felt a little bit off the wall, a bit quirky, a bit different, and I'd spent so much of my life trying to be normal. It was exhausting and a waste of time. So people like Lady Gaga and Madonna, even say Dame Edna Everage. It's easy to sort of like think of your heroes as people you don't know, but actually, if I'm in a challenging situation, the first people I think about are my friends.
If I go to a concert and there's like an amazing musician, they in that moment then they are my hero or heroine.
Okay.
Don't tell her I said this, but like Paul is my hero in a way, just for how honest she is with me. And I've never met someone like that before.
One of the main ones is Paul Robeson, and just his phenomenal life, incredible voice, incredible. No one quite like him. Very, very deep. I mean, Old Man River is the song that he's most well known for. But also he was an actor, and he played Othello. But also on top of that, he was an activist. He got into trouble, particularly after the war with McCarthyism. He always stuck up for what he believed, and he was a very, very courageous man. Very moving, because he's this big, handsome, intelligent, beautiful man who's really passionate. I mean, he could just have an easy life, being an entertainer, and then, but he put himself in danger. and made it hard for himself. You know, the precursor really of the civil rights movement.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator, oh my God, there's just something about him in Terminator. Part of me thinks I should be saying Gandhi or Martin Luther King. I would say Kemal Atatürk, founder of the modern republic. Then when I step back and look at it, then I think, well, I can be very critical of these people as well. So I think it's dangerous when you sort of idolise someone. I'm quite conflicted around it.
I find myself now actually feeling resistant to the concept of heroes because there's something about that we're all just fallible. So the only way I can answer that, I think, is in terms of admiring. I had a boss, my first really good job, and I truly believe she has taught me what a good manager is. She managed me, and that meant doing the difficult things as well as pulling in my emotional world, as well as pulling in my vulnerabilities and giving me motivation, but didn't shy away from the fact that there was a role to be managed. I think she probably had a huge influence on me that enabled my career as a people manager. There is so many people who have elements that I admire of them. You are one of them.
Oh.
No, and you genuinely are. Your self-awareness rocks. Your ability to be strong in your vulnerability is astounding, probably more than I've ever seen in anybody. Getting a little bit emotional.
It changes. It used to be Oliver Cromwell. This character I admired so much. I mean, he wasn't pleasant for a number of reasons, but it was just his dogged determination, his rise to power. But it was a reluctant power. It was a real faith that got him to where he was. After he'd fought all those battles, he was tired. But then he had to pick himself up and think, I'm the only person that can do this job. And then carried on until his death. I reference him in my mind because I don't want to be like that. I want to achieve the goal, and then I want to hand it over, and I want to trust others to take it on, my vision, but blended with their own vision. So he's a reference point rather than an idol. I have many other idols, and these aren't people that necessarily achieved public extraordinary things. There are people that carry on with silent struggles. If they can do it, then I can jolly well deal with whatever's thrown my way.
So the first person who just popped in my head was literary heroine, George Eliot. Quite interesting in terms of her whole view on what literature was for, and this notion of kind of it, being about truth and sort of somehow morally improving all of that. Some of which I, don't like the thought of at all. But I think George Eliot. Well, I don't know why. And I'd put Virginia Woolf in that category as well. Poor thing. Before the River. So there's a kind of feminist theme there, isn't there? Actually. So the first thing that pops into my mind is something like the feeling that I kind of have quite a good sense of understanding people's motives or understanding people. But then the caveat is I'm also aware that actually people are kind of unknowable as well. So although I sort of instinctively think I'm quite good at that, equally I recognise that, you're kind of kidding yourself if you think you understand people.
Connecting with people, I guess, I find it really easy. I guess because I enjoy it. I find it easy to understand how things work as well. Starting from simple objects or phones or computers to how the mind works.
If I'm in the mood for it, I find relating to people very easy. I build relationships with people well and easily. Yeah, humour as well is probably another thing. I mean, I only share humour with certain people, you being one of them. But I find my mind brims over with silly ideas and stuff.
I find talking easy. I feel like I can have a conversation with anyone. And being enthusiastic and like enthusing others. Like I find it quite easy to like encourage other people.
So very little. I think because I'm thinking all the time and questioning all the time, I find life exhausting. Because of wanting to live well, I think about the death quite a bit. I think what comes easily to me is emotions and talking and connecting with people. I can, with most people, quite easily get connections going. I don't find it easy getting people that I want to really be a friend with. So I don't find it easy finding my tribe.
All the jobs I've ever had I found easy. I've never been like professionally trained in any of the jobs that I've done. I've just learned how to do them. I've just made it up. So I guess they've all been problem solving things and just find that really easy. I find it easy to see the humour in things. Things requiring a bit of courage. Also, I find it easy, but I find it easy to make the decision to do them.
Maybe hosting people, trying to make people feel comfortable or at ease or welcome. Yeah, there's something around hospitality. Or maybe my line of work around, working with teenagers. I feel other people's experience and I get curious, like, how can I help bring them out of that?
Standing up and giving a presentation doesn't faze me at all. So I guess that whole thing around what for many people is a very nerve-wracking situation, I don't find that.
Not stressing about the majority of things. Apart from being in a relationship, I can pretty much not stress about anything. I think I see things in perspective, I think, most of the time. I've found it easy to make friends, I guess. I find playing musical instruments easy. I've always found like money easy. Like I don't ever care about money, but I've always seemed to have enough.
In some ways singing, but not always the notes, but apart from the notes. Somehow the act of singing I can find kind of very natural or something. It's almost like I can trust my voice or something to do that. In fact, some ways I much prefer singing than talking.
I think it's cheese and onion crisps. Preferably squares.
Pasta, really good pasta. Or a roast dinner.
Oh, I love chocolates. And then I do really enjoy eating healthily. I like that feeling in your body. But if you're going to ask me what my favourite food is, I'd say chocolate.
Chocolate and veg? Chocolate. If in doubt, eat chocolate. And veg, like I just, do get excited by veg. And if a day goes by and I haven't had any veg, I get a bit grumpy.
Avocado. And I really like cashews, but they don't like me. I don't like greens.
I love Italian food, probably. If I was to choose a theme, I like the Orient, Thai and Indonesian and Middle Eastern food too, actually. Yeah.
Oh, my favourite foods. Thank God for these questions.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking of strawberries, which I don't even like very much. My mind's grasping for any kind of food stuff. Do you see how I'm making things unnecessary? No. Oh God.
We can come back
Parmesan
to
cheese.
There we go.
That'll do.
Turkish food. I think Turkish cuisine is the best cuisine.
My favourite food? South Indian food, but this sounds really snobby, but only in South India. Because once you've eaten South Indian food, it's a poor imitation outside of there. And then everywhere else in the world it's chips.
It's fun, isn't it? I've got another list answer to that one as well,
yes.
which is strawberries, and I do love strawberries, and I do love strawberry jam. I like sharp flavours. I like vinegar on everything. It's all right to have a current favourite, isn't it? And that's my butter and garlic soaked fried bread.
I quite like chocolate pudding. Also, like Mexican food, I really like as well. I like putting it all together and wrapping it off. Refried beans and guacamole. That's good as well. Curry. Yeah, curry is a big favourite.
Yeah, definitely the 17th century, because you're sort of moving from the divine right of kings through into this sort of scientific inquiry. I love history. I mean, if you'd asked me the question, be invisible or time travel, it would be time travel.
Okay.
If I was to choose a moment that I could time travel back to, it would be in the theatre watching Nell Gwyn, one of the first on stage as a female. And from that perspective, she would have been a novelty, but she would have had to have been quite an interesting and profound individual to get herself there, and also to win the heart of a king, to be transported back to that and watch that woman on stage. Would be inspiration that I wouldn't need anything else, I think, for the rest of my life. That would make it for me, I think.
So there's quite a few, actually. The French Revolution, just the whole notion that something could suddenly turn around so quickly and then completely fundamentally change the nature of the country and then become quite deep-rooted in the way that France is now. Got a bit of a thing for the 20s. For very shallow reasons, actually, because I just think it must have been so much fun. But actually fun in a sort of slightly desperate way. It was almost a sort of fight back against the sort of the horrors of the First World War. And you've got this generation of sort of bright young things who feel that they weren't a part of that and sort of almost go the other way and start living this really frivolous life that's kind of fueled by gin cocktails and cocaine and wild parties. I think that would have been really good fun.
Death in general fascinates me. So yeah, death in history, individuals, loss, how people face that. The Rwandan genocide absolutely fascinated me. Understanding what drew that to happen. And understanding both sides. I'm fascinated by the dynamics which turn good people who were neighbours with people into hatred enough so that you would kill.
The first thing that I got really interested in is when I went to Berlin. I just learned all about World War II. And then everything sort of after that. So I was like obsessed with the Berlin Wall. And then the other thing I'm really into history-wise is looking at sort of seeing photographs of people sort of from, so proper photographs. So they must sort of early 1900s. Looking at them and seeing what they wore and you know how they looked, and then just looking at them thinking, you were here and now you're not.
Okay, part of me is like I'd love to have been a hunter-gatherer. I'd love to have grown up like that, and also the artist in me would have loved to have like lived in Paris at that studio time. I've fallen in love with an artist then, like lived in their studio or whatever. And I also would have loved to have done the same in New York when like performance was being explored. But these are all contingent on the fact that either I'm a performer or an artist, or I have connections so I can get involved in those things.
The premiere performance of, well, two pieces actually. The Rite of Spring. I mean, there's that legend, isn't there, about a riot at the end of the Rite of Spring. And the premiere performance of 4 Minutes 33 by John Cage as well. I quite like confrontational or challenging performances. The Buddha's enlightenment would have to be quite,
up there.
It's quite a big one, isn't it? It's a biggie.
Most inspirational historical site I've been to is the place where the Wright brothers first achieved flights. That moment. They're not the moment, but to sort of that trying and failing and trying and failing. I thought that was really, and it's kind of positive, isn't it, rather than all the terrible things that you could think of.
I'm interested in the Ottoman Empire, and you know how this kind of small family became leaders of a big part of Eastern Europe, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Greece, and all of North Africa, Turkey, Middle East. Massive empire. The palace and the wealth and the politics, cutthroat nature of how they had to preserve power, its growth and its subsequent decline, and then the transition from empire into modern state. Through Kemal Atatürk, that was quite a significant period, and and Britain's involvement in that.
Yeah, life sometimes can feel like a bit of an uphill struggle. Myself, I suppose, my own worst enemy.
I find making friends quite difficult.
Mm.
You know, it takes me a bit of time to open up to people. I'm an introverted person. In situations where I don't know many people, I don't feel comfortable. I'm not very good at small talk.
Sometimes I find my internal experience difficult. Sometimes I have this tension in me which I don't know where it comes from, but I kind of find it difficult to let go of, and then it kind of spirals down.
At times, you know, giving talks, maybe confidence in that I can do it. Yeah, sort of tendency to doubt myself in certain situations like that. It's interesting, I think, notice tendency to not do the things that I don't feel confident about.
Intimacy. Or at least that's the story that I'm running at the moment.
Right.
I find it difficult not to worry about what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it difficult to be totally self-interested.
I do find it challenging to like wholeheartedly back myself. You know, if I was in a discussion with somebody, I would tend towards making it an easy discussion.
Yes.
And then perhaps afterwards I might think, oh, I had a lot to say there and you didn't say it. But it's like this kind of desire to just kind of like almost just blend back into whatever's around you.
But I'm discovering at the moment I find it very difficult to be honest and vulnerable and authentic in a relationship with a man. Do you think that's cured me now I've said it?
Yeah.
Great. I find it difficult to have a relationship with my parents and my brother. I sometimes find it difficult like not to sort of prod someone. Like I just keep thinking of a couple of people who are sort of quite close friends who sometimes I'm just thinking like what are you doing, and I sort of might say something just to sort of wind them up a bit. Sort of I find it actually difficult not to do that. I find it really difficult to keep my room tidy.
Being in the moment and not berating myself and not worrying. I think what would make my life less difficult is a really deep, true sense that I am human, I'm not perfect, I make mistakes, it doesn't define me. But so I find that difficult.
Walking into a crowded room amongst strangers and trying to make conversation, I find excruciating. I think it comes from being an only child, and I've always been incredibly shy, and I can all too easily go into my own cave.
Written on the Body by Jeanette Winterson, which was, I would say, I think if you interview most lesbians, there's a coming out book in everybody.
Right.
So that's my coming out book.
Okay.
A love story of somebody who is terminally ill and dying with a theme. It's beautiful and it's sexual and there's the most wondrous descriptions of bodies and being touched, and so as a coming out book it's just perfect.
Tess of the D'Urbervilles, beautifully written, related to that story of this poor girl who was struggling through no fault of her own. But I also loved the whole Wessex backdrop. I've always been attracted to those writers who create this sort of slight fantasy world, but one that has a kind of relatable element to it.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, is Life of Pi. So gripped was I by that novel. And I don't read many novels, which sort of surprises myself. I like reading, but I tend to like reading facts rather than fiction. I don't know why that is.
And I absolutely love Dostoevsky. Brother Karamazov, one which comes to my mind, and also The Idiot. I think it's the depth of psychological knowledge, of knowledge of human behavior.
The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. John Wyndham. Particularly The Day of the Triffids. I read it for the second time last year, actually. Something that really had an effect on me was Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit.
A book called The Salt Eaters. It's by Tony Cade Bambara. I believe that it was the book that marked the beginning of my spiritual journey.
Never Let Me Go by Kazi Wuranish. I remember reading The Handmaid's Tale Margaret Atwood and absolutely loving that. Actually, that sort of genre of sort of sci-fi type books, like 1984, I really liked. Tess of the D'Urbervilles, I really liked that.
For a very long time, it was Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. I absolutely just fell in love with it. His writing just is alive. It's just very lyrical and at times kind of florid, but sounds lovely to read.
Again, that's from my list of things compiled. Middlemarch, I think. Just a masterpiece. It's a bloody masterpiece. Brilliant, brilliant drawing a character.
Khalid Hosseini, A Kite Runner. I think I love the simplicity of the language. He captured the essence of it without over-describing it.
It would probably be something by Haruki Murakami. If I had to choose one by him, it would probably be Kafka on the Shore. The poignancy of the impermanence of things.
Well, it sort of all goes back to the same thing. I think having really good friends, I'm so grateful for that. I guess I'm proud to know them. And I am proud of my musical achievements. It's funny, I don't actually feel proud of them, but when I tell someone and they're like, oh wow, you did that, and I'm like, and I sort of feel proud when I say it. I guess I feel proud of sort of the level of sort of quite, playing with quite elite people and doing quite elite things. I guess I could be proud of that.
I sort of want to say making a difference to people's lives. It can sound a bit full of yourself, but I think that's what I do feel. So I think in a way being a therapist and a coach and finding a sort of spiritual path, I've kind of created a new life for myself, which has largely been in the service of other people. I feel quite pleased about that, really. I hope I'm a better friend. I sort of sense I am. In the end, I think that's what I feel most proud of.
I think when you look at the markers of success, working on yourself and your mind, particularly when you're in those states of mind, doesn't appear. But actually, I'm actually really proud of how I've worked on my mind. I think with this awareness that I've created, maybe through Buddhism and yoga, it really gives me a choice, that I didn't have before. I think I used to act out unconsciously quite a lot, but now I feel like I can make choices, and I think my quality of life is better. And I am proud of my friendships. I do have good friends.
I think it's a hard question because a lot of the good things that have happened have been more luck than courage. I had my first child when I was 16, and I'd had 4 children by the time I was 19. I was a good parent. I wasn't going out clubbing, I took it very seriously. And I think in so many ways that experience healed me. And of course children should never be there to heal your own stuff, but that was the situation and that it did. So I could say that I'm proud of the fact that I was a young mum and parented well, but it was also my saving. Although I had not a GCSE to my name, that I fast-tracked to a university course when in my early 20s. Sort of like, I can't say that I can be proud of that because actually I was incredibly lucky. People took a punt on me. So I think I find it difficult to own pride. I think I am proud that I am the type of mother I have become to my adult children. I think that I've got that right.
Overcoming the challenges that I've had with my mind has been the hardest thing that I've had to do, but the most rewarding. So I'm proud of myself, I guess, for not destroying myself.
I'm proudest of building myself up from scratch twice. From Poland, where I consider myself to be quite high in society. Then going to Germany, starting from literally zero. No one even knew my name. And then building myself up, and then coming to London. And then starting from scratch again. So I think this is what I'm the proudest of.
I think I'm a very open person, and I think I'm very committed to my learning, and I'm very committed to learning about other people and processes. So yeah, I think I can be proud of that. I do feel that's something I'm very committed to, and I live up to.
This was a long time ago, but I'm still very proud of getting a first. I'm proud of my career and where I've got to. I'm also proud that I've got to the age of 40 and I'm still able to do things like run half marathons.
I guess one of the things is ordination. Maybe not quite proudest of, but important. Drawing a lot of strings together and making more sense of my life or more direction in my life. Well, pleased I've just pursued that in a way. You know, years ago I decided to come to the Buddhist Centre and I pursued that and I've taken it step by step. So I'm proud of myself for doing that, because in other circumstances I think I'd have just settled for an easy life.
So I did a master's a few years ago in music, and that was a bit of a dream come true for me, because I'd always had a fascination with music and I've been making my own music for about 10 years, but I'm not classically trained. So to get on the master's course was amazing for me. To do the master's was fantastic. I ended up working with a lot of contemporary dance companies and did quite a lot of stuff that I actually got quite far with it. You know, I was sort of proud in the sense that it just wasn't something I ever thought I would do.
I want to say there is a need to be proud of myself because I have wanted other people to be proud of me. That really is important. What I'm proudest of, I was quite amazed that I was ever invited to a teaching post at Cambridge. And I suppose all the things that I'm proudest of, I've worked so hard for, but by the time I get to a point where I've achieved and I should be proud of it, I'm fed up with it. But I do know what I'm proud of at the moment. It's all the people that work for Bayfield Training. I've employed people that are quite young and have limited experience in an office environment, and I've coached them and I've trained them. A really wonderful thing to watch another human being grow, and to think that you've had a part of it.
Oh God, what am I proudest of? I really keep coming back to the same things. You know, maybe the moments where, what we were talking about earlier, where it's quite hard to be. So proud of sometimes of, you know, not losing it. Trying to do your best with something.
Yeah.
I hope life has lots of financial abundance to offer me, and that it will continue to be full of lessons, like depth lessons, that it will bring me more laughter, more things to enjoy, and meaningful relationships. I guess the last thing is something to do with my writing. I hope that what can happen is that I can feel totally free to express myself, and that I can just make loads of money for doing what I enjoy.
I think I'm on the brink of something really important. I feel like the shift now, I really want to have my own family. And this is really thrilling because it means providing, letting go a little bit of my own personal kind of small goals and giving into this bigger vision, this service really.
Surprises and growth and learning and experiences that right now at this moment I either don't think I'm capable of, or I don't think are possible, or I just don't think are in my path.
I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to be a little bit more relaxed. I'd like to spend more time with my friends and more time with David. I'd like to spend a bit more time in Skye. I'd like to do a bit more travelling and so on. That looks relatively imminent. The thing is, it's a big question, and I think about it all the time. I think I fitted quite a lot in up until 42. So there's almost a greediness about then hoping for any more in the years to come. But I do. There are so many directions you could take, so many exciting choices and opportunities. But there's another choice as well. So I could just stop achieving and just relax. But I hope I'll be happy. And that you're in it, of course.
Oh, thank you.
Goodbye.
Continue to explore the world. having someone or people in my life that I love and continuing to do meaningful work.
I hope for many years of a healthy body, really, so I can go swimming, go running, go dancing, whatever, and do physical things. I mean, in a way, continuing the same vein, so going deeper with my Buddhist practice and making progress there, and also not only sort of internally, but also making a difference to the world.
Oh, I still want to finish that damn book.
Yeah.
I will. I will. I haven't got many ambitions. I'm not a highly ambitious person, but it's the one thing I've always wanted to do. See my children grow up, obviously, touch wood, and you'd love to think that they're going to be okay. If you're very lucky, you escape too many not nice things happening, I suppose, don't you? It would be nice to think you pootle along and that you're okay and your loved ones are okay.
I want to fall in love and meet an amazing guy and have babies and be happy within that. That's the most important thing. And that's it.
Ooh, gosh, lots of things. Lots more food, more travel, visiting more new places. I'd like to spend a bit of time living in France. It's slightly more adventurous. I really want to go to the South Pacific. I'd like to achieve more in my career.
The health of my loved ones. I'd love to prosper in my profession. So I want to be successful. I want to own a home. And romantically, I want to be in a stable, loving, respectful relationship which is built on authentic, honest communication. The world is okay as it is, as long as my will to change it. I'm accepting of myself where I'm at, but within that I'm still, driven to be successful.
I've lived my life to the max. I've done anything I've ever possibly had the energy for. So more of the same, really. Just lots of adventure, lots of fun. I'd like to create something really big, something that makes a difference to humankind if I could.
More of the same and more so. I feel like my life has been richer and more fulfilling than I ever dreamed that it possibly could be or would be. So I don't really know what the future holds. I'm sort of prepared to be surprised, really.
Right.
All I want is to get a little further in being able to live well. An acceptance, less torturousness with how I am in the world, and more connection and laughter and realness with people. Everything else will, for me, would just be a facilitational journey towards that.
No.
Right then.
We've raked it all up, haven't we?
Yeah.
Thank
Really
you, Tim. That was
appreciate
fun,
it.
actually. I wasn't
Excellent.
expecting it to be.
Good.
No, they were good questions.
Good.
So well done.
Thank you.
It reminds me, as I've been out of therapy for some time, how wonderful it is to talk about yourself and to hear out loud some of your thinkings and to be slightly challenged with holding a mirror up to some of your thoughts and some of your perceptions and some of your values and goals. That's a lovely thing. So thank you for that experience.
I think this is such a nice project, and I'm really grateful to just have had somebody listen attentively. Some really interesting questions. Thank you.
I think it's quite a rare opportunity to be able to explore yourself in this way. It's allowed me to go quite deep. I feel grateful to you for going through the effort of doing this. It indicates, the importance of friendship. I do have a good friendship with you that warms my heart. I feel what you're doing is an expression of your love.
Well, thank you very much, Tim, for doing this. It's just a very imaginative thing to do and a lovely thing to do, to invite friends and to record them.
No, but I would make an observation. You ask questions and I give an answer, but actually what comes through probably isn't really the answer to the questions. Each person will have a particularly different kind of themness, and it's the themness that you're responding to as much as the content, isn't it?
No, I mean, I've just found it interesting how, because I never think about this sort of thing, and I've just found it interesting how it's quite specific what I do really enjoy in life and get the most out of.
Well, I think we've had a good troll around the various dimensions of life, haven't we? So I think no is the answer.
I think you've asked some very good questions.
Thanks.
Probing.
Thanks for coming to my home, and feels very indulgent talking about myself. I hope it has some value in your project. Great to have you as a friend.
Oh, thank you. Likewise.
It's really good of you to ask, like, to be so interested in all this about your friends.
I'm not really that interested. No, I am. Thank you very much for letting me interview you.
It's a pleasure.
You don't mean that, do you?
No, I do mean that. I do mean that.
I don't. So do you ever get a sense within that of being guided somehow?
No.
No.
No. That's the answer to that.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for letting me interview you.
Okay. Not sure what to say yet.
Yes, right.
Wait till I get to the end.
I think it's really, really good. Crash. The next thing is you sort of salting out the window. What happened then? Oh, Tim jumped out the window.
So above and beyond oneself.
I don't know if it's above.
Right.
And I don't know if it's beyond, but it's
Right.
it's both.
Other than that,
completely.
yes.
Other than that, exactly right.
I think I make a good lentil soup. We sound French now because the French are really proud of that, because I'm such a great cook. I'm so good. Oh my god, I'm so good. I know.
This next question, a lot of people, well, some people.
Tell you to fuck off.
No.
No.
Was part of the reason why you were able to choose that. Was Blue part of that? Had you already had a strong connection with Blue?
No.
What's my favourite shape? I think it's square.
Okay.
Actually, when I think about it, you're my hero too. You always have been.
That's a better answer.
You always have been.
No, this is the best bit.
Pardon?
This is the best bit. Should we leave it there?
Let's leave it like this.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Say it to the
Goodbye,
camera.
chicken. Sorry. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Let's leave it there, Tim.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much,
It's a pleasure.
Claire.
It's a pleasure. I don't ever want to see it, but it's a pleasure.
Farewell.
Farewell.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much on that note.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, Tim.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So thank you very much.
Yeah, may you grow and prosper.